How to Mod, Episode 2. 9 years in the making. Deshi Carbon. My absolute favorite skate. It's simple. It's one piece. It's responsive. It's durable. Because of the flat boot, you can use a variety of sole plates. I personally prefer the Adapt Symetrics sole plate because it's a strong, durable, fast material. Not a great groove, but we know how to fix that. The downsides of this skate are that it breaks down pretty quickly. Not in the way the old ones did. It doesn't get floppy because you always have that rigid base to work with. This carbon fiber shell, as far as I can tell, it lasts at least 10 years. The issue being, if you don't wear the liner thin in the heel, you are at least going to lose support in this cuff because it is built in, it's one piece. What happens for me here, and watch the suede, from flexing, it bows out there. You know, it lets loose from the material, or the material lets loose from the carbon fiber rather. These rivets just hold the outer structure to the inner structure, not to the carbon fiber itself. It's more apparent here where you can really see the suede here bend out. So this, as you can imagine, is less than ideal for doing a torque grind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the built-in lining. I'm going to add an internal cuff out of thin cutting board plastic, and then I'm going to put in an intuition liner. And I've gone up one shell size recently, which should give me plenty of room for that liner. Now we're going to do a time-lapse video of me pulling the skate apart, because I would never miss an opportunity to do a time-lapse video. Alright. Now that we have the skate disassembled, this gives me an opportunity to talk about my setup real quick and what I like in a skate. I like the carbon fiber because it is thin, low to the ground, rigid, responsive, durable, and lightweight. I don't care so much about the weight, but it's a nice bonus when you're skating something like the CRS frame, which is fairly heavy, especially when you're riding it flat. So overall, I would say the weight evens out. If I skate the CRS, I skate the hard urethane in the middle and the soft ones on the outside. That gives me a rocker type feel. 50/50, 60 millimeter, 88 wheels, 88A wheels. I like the cushion, I like the grip, and so far they're holding up really well. I think I've got a dozen sessions on these, all concrete. The Adapt Symetric soles, again, durable, simple, switch them around. Power Slide gel heel pad, and Superfeet yellow insoles. I believe these ones are specifically for hockey, so they're very responsive. I don't like a lot under my feet, so alright, let's move on to the next part, ripping out this liner. The first thing I like to do, you don't have to, but I find that it makes it a lot easier. It's pulling out this tongue. You can reuse it later, but if you have a liner in it, if you think of any other skate, you don't really need a tongue on top of a tongue. So we're going to remove the liner first. Brand new razor blade. That's essential. Because what you have to do, and you know what? A lot of the time it's easier to just do the razor blade on its own. You get in between the fibers and you cut just the stitching. You're not cutting any fabric. So if you look up real close, you will see the stitching from the footbed to the side of the lining. And you'll want to start by getting your razor blade in there and cutting it loose. So for this, I'll put it back in the handle, or the razor blade itself, and cut those threads. And you know, you really don't have to be that accurate with it. You know, it's all going to be garbage after this. You can't reuse it, so I can't really show you this, but I have the base loose from the sides, and what you have to do is you have to get your fingers under that base. Yep, start pulling it up. So That's the footbed right there. And that'll give you a really good starting point. Now, I only cut those threads from the back. You don't really want to separate them from the front, because what this is going to do is allow you to pull the base up from the footbed of the shale. And then along with it, because it's still stitched, now the suede is pulling up from the sides of the toe, or the side of the boot, the toe, all of that. You're getting all of that up. And you'll feel that there's probably, I don't know, 2 millimeters of foam in there. Alright, so you can see that's pretty good and pulled up now there. Now we'll move to the back half of the skate. You just gotta kind of work your fingers in there. You could heat this up to make it easier, but the Deshi Carbon was the first ever aggressive carbon fiber skate. I've never had a problem it just pulling loose, you know? So I don't think you need heat in this application. Okay. So I've got it pretty good and loose up into here. Pretty much all the way through, so it's going to be hard to get this next part properly on film. But we're going to start cutting, and then what we're going to do is this lining here, we're going to make sure we leave it basically where you see this suede band with the laces. We're going to leave that material there. That we don't have to redo the eyelets or anything like that. And same thing up here. We're going to try to leave it, I would say, a good 3/4 to a full inch away from the edge. That's roughly 2 centimeters for you other guys. I'm going to start up at the very top. So this band is usually white if you have Deshi Carbons. I leave that in place. You could remove it because I don't know that it does that much, honestly. It is really just padding. Yeah, I don't know, but I like to cut about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch down, so that's 1/2 centimeter to a centimeter. Let me get the padding back out. Okay, there it is. So I'm going to start by cutting it just in half, right down this way. That gives me a good way to get in there, really. That simple. Ripped in half. Okay. Cut it a little bit closer to that top padding. And then what you want to do as you're doing this is kind of pull the lining away from the outside layers. The cuff is probably the trickiest part because I mean, you can see this, it's just cloth. The carbon fiber ends right there. So it's hard to get like a good footing on it, I guess. But we'll go ahead and start. And sorry, it's difficult to show this, but like I said, you can't really mess it up. Worst case, you know, you cut further away and then you come back and trim it again. So I'm just going to get started with that and just start going. Yep. So now that I've got that cut away, I can start peeling that lining away from the outer layer just by tucking my fingers in there. And if you're doing this at home, you'll know what I mean. Cut another 1.5 inches or so, get your fingers in there, tuck them in there a bit more, pull it away. Yep. Okay. Now, like I said before, I stopped about 1 inch away from the outside of the fabric here, so you know, it's really easy to see the difference because the structural material is white. So now I'm going to cut down along the eyelets. Again, staying 1 inch in because I want to leave that material there. Because basically what'll happen is if you pulled that material all the way to the edge, you would start pulling material out from under the eyelets, which then you would need to tighten the eyelets. Otherwise, the rivets are just spinning in there. And as I showed before, this black goes into gray, so I'm gonna keep going up until I get to that gray material, and then I'll do the other side. Okay, I just hit the gray on that that side. So I'm typically a size 7 in USD Carbons, and I've gone up to what is the equivalent of a size 8. The Deshi sizing was weird, I won't go into it, but let's say that this is a size 8 and I used to always skate a size 7. So I've gone up a size to give me room for the Intuition liner. And I think that's going to take care of the heel problem, because I've been skating fitness for the last 2 or 3 years in this pair of Deshi Carbons. This is the same size as this one, it just looks bigger, I think, because of the white. And I typically have the Intuition liners in here, and it's been incredible. They're tight, but I never have any actual issues because of that Intuition material, which allows you to effectively cram your foot into a boot without actually causing any damage or things like that. So another thing I'm just now seeing to think about, you can see there's this stitching here just behind the eyelets, and I did it on this side, but it goes all the way through, so the lining is stitched there. I would keep your cut behind that lining, and that way you never have to worry about anything unraveling. I did the same on the other side, so I'm going to keep going with that over here. And like I said, just taking my time, because you do not want to rush it. I don't want to cut it too close to the eyelets. I don't want to accidentally stick it through the outer black pseudo leather material. I don't know what it is. Okay, great. So now all that black material has been pulled loose, and just to make my job easier, it's kind of ripping where I want it to, but I'm just gonna cut it right down between that black and gray divide, and just get rid of it, because you can't reuse it. So alright, so with ripping out this gray suede, like I said, the suede panel, the eyelet panel, I don't know the technical term, is a really good guide. That's about how far you want to take it when you cut it. So you imagine about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch away from the eyelets, 1/2 centimeter to a centimeter or so. Let's see. Again, it's going to be hard to show you, but I will just start cutting, and then you'll see the thing afterwards. Yeah, I got a little bit closer than I wanted to that eyelet, but again, fine. So what I'll do is one side down to about that eyelet, and then I'll go to the other side, and then we'll take it out at the toe. That kind of makes it easier, because yeah, it's just a confined space. So yep. So yeah, about that 1/4 inch or so. And you'll see the carbon fiber shell as you're going. It is above the carbon fiber shell. Alright, getting up into the toe box, which is where it gets a bit tricky. So when we took out the tongue, you'll notice that that stitching did not loosen, at least in my experience. It may if you really tug on it. It doesn't loosen this. So once you get here, I find you can just follow. If you keep your blade straight up and down, you can kind of follow this cutout right here of this toe box. I would take it right to the center from that side, and then go to the other side, take it out from there as well. Alright, there we are. Every mod's going to be different. This is probably the 12th time I've done this mod. You can see all that gray padding in the footbed. Now, you're going to want to take this out. And sometimes it comes out pretty easily. Maybe you can see that groove there on that side where I took it out. Yep, in the middle, it's pretty good and glued down. You do want to remove all of that. Doesn't smell too bad, actually. That's nice. I've been skating these like non-stop for a month, but I guess I removed the stinky parts. Yeah, in front of the receptor, it looks like all the padding came out. So I've used anything from a flathead screwdriver to a chisel to just start scraping. Okay, on to clearing this annoying padding in the bottom. So I'm gonna take out the UFS receptors because since I'm using the Adapt sole plates, I'm gonna take advantage of the 6-mount system. I use a 6-mount receptor in the back, but because that receptor is a bit thick, I use a regular receptor in the front, and then I will sometimes use like 2 Razor's T-nuts. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm just gonna remove these UFS mounts. You can see, you know, your UFS mount there and there, but then just in the middle, there's a rivet there, and there's a rivet there. I'm gonna drill out the rivet so I can pull out the receptors. Let's see what size this is. It's 5/32. If I had to guess, I'd say 45 millimeters. I'm not sure. Yep, that popped it. You could probably hear that pop on your end. Yeah, this rivet's spinning, so this one's gonna give me a little bit of a headache. If you spin it like that, sometimes you can get rid of where the rivet has flattened out to grab it, and at least weaken it. So I'm gonna keep doing that a little bit. Yep, got it. That did the trick. Okay, let's see if they just pop right out for me. Beautiful. And beautiful. So, 2 frame bolt receptors pulled out. Because you can, well, maybe you can see it, I don't know. There's a blank spot in that foam padding. And then 1 inch or so, just a flat scraper. So you want to get in there and start scraping that footbed, just get all that padding off. You know, you're probably gonna have glue behind, and I've gone crazy and gotten rid of that glue, because you'll have some in the heel and the ankle area too. I've done it both ways. I don't think it matters much if you get rid of it or not. I suppose if you leave it in there, maybe it helps hold your liner in place and stuff like that. Like, yeah. That's coming out pretty good. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm pretty happy with that. I'm 70% done already. I mean, there's not a whole lot in there, but and I do know from experience that the Carbon 2 padding sticks down better. The Carbon 1 sticks down better than the Deshi. The Carbon 2 sticks down better than the Carbon 1, and so on. I think they just kept updating what they were using. You'll have, or at least I do, I have the thinnest layer of the foam padding still glued to the side, but it's so thin, like 1/10 of a millimeter. I see no reason to really bother with doing anything with it. It's not going to cause a problem. I can feel a little blob up of glue near the big toe, and I have giant big toes, so I'm going to try to take care of this. Cool. Pretty happy with that, so don't know how well you can see that, but you can, you know, maybe you can see that there's no liner left, there's no foam left. Well, a little bit. I'll do a better job in between scenes here, but yeah, fairly cleared out. Alright, next step is putting the liner in the boot, and then putting your foot in it. See how it feels. Okay. Personally, I find that they work a little bit better without any of the support structure that they come with, the yellow pad, the black pad, whatever, because it's a slim boot. It's meant to be slim, and it is contoured into that shape. I mean, the original liner up here, it had next to no padding. The padding was the fact that it just moved like this, so you really don't need anything up there. So I would go with no support structure up here. Yeah, let's just see how it feels. So I'm dropping it in here for the first time. Okay, that goes pretty good. No, let me put my heel pad in there. I probably won't use an insole because it's going to be that close as far as fitment goes, but the Intuition is designed to be used without an insole. You can of course add one if you feel like you have a little bit of room. I'm going to start without one. So, okay. Yeah, that went in exactly how I wanted it to. So, let me do that. Okay. Yeah. It might be a little bit tight in the toe. On the top of my big toe. So, and I won't do this now because this takes trial and error. So, the skin right here, just as easy as it was to pull out the lining, it is just as easy to pull this skin off of here. This I would encourage you to use heat, at least a good hair dryer. I use a heat gun, but to lift this skin, my first step would be to take this whole thing as it is, the boot, the skin, and the liner, throw it in the oven at 180 degrees. I'm sorry guys, I don't know what that is Celsius. For 10 to 15 minutes. I tend to do 15 minutes. If you're feeling cautious, do 10 minutes. And then put it on. Wear it for about 15 minutes and or until it is cool. And then if you feel like you have the space, good. If not, then you can start peeling the skin and making it work for you. Yeah. So far, so good. I'm pretty happy with this fit. We still have the issue of cuff support. We need something to keep our foot straight when we're doing our top sides. You know, this just ain't gonna cut it. So, let's pull out our liner, whichever liner you may choose. Over the years, I've come up with a few templates. This one was pretty great for the Carbon 2, because I've done this same mod on the Carbon 2 skate. And then this one is very similar to that one, but I found that it was too stiff and needed some flex cuts. It's nearly identical to this one, just minor changes. So what you want to do is take a piece of cardstock, and I'll share these designs. If anyone needs some guidance, needs a template, I'll hand it on. But yeah, draw something on a piece of cardstock in the half form so that it's symmetrical. Symmetrical to me is important. Maybe not actually important, but what you do at that point, you fit that cardstock between the carbon fiber and the exterior skin. Okay? It's a little difficult with paper stock because you're trying to not rip it, but also trying to get it in there. But you know, you can imagine what that might look like. So what we're trying to come up with is a way to basically finish the top of this skate. What I have been using lately is this just cheapo pack of 3 cutting boards from Target. 3 boards for $15. So what you would do, you would get this in here. And what I've done in the past is I've removed these rivets because I would put an external cuff on here, and I thought the rivets got in the way. I would leave the rivets because they hold that inner material to the exterior material, giving you more support. In the end, this skin will offer more support, especially this side if you leave this buckle protector, because it goes from above the screw receptors for the straps or buckle to below that rivet right there. So, doing that, I think the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to put a screw between rivet 1 and 2, I guess you would call it if it's 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 just down near that stitching. So, because the carbon fiber comes up to about right here, and you want to make sure it grabs enough carbon fiber. You know, you don't want it at the tip, you want it deep enough in that you're going to have enough support. But yeah, all you have to do is drill, you know, one hole here, one hole on the other side. I use basically something simple like a razor's T-nut. I do a washer on the outside, something a little bit bigger, so it doesn't dig into the skin, because the skin, it will pull in, it will compress it. So if you use a little bit bigger of a washer below that screw, you'll do less damage to the skin. And I've had skates that I've skated for 2 to 3 years with the washer, and it's not done significant damage. You can see that it's compressed, but it's been fine. And then what you'll want to do is take something, usually your typical, this is a stock razors, what is it, 4mm to 3mm Allen key. If you take that in and you pop it on the inside, let's see if it's as easy as I remember. Yep. You can pop that receptor right out. So then what you'll do is you'll use pretty standard buckle, screw, strap receptors to put on the inside of the boot, or on the inside of your new cuff rather. So the cuff will strap to the skin, and then strap to your strap and or buckle, whichever you choose to use. I recommend a strap because to me the skate is meant to move. It's meant to feel natural. So by pulling these out, you screw right through all of those layers, and where it seemed like it was all separate parts, by screwing it all together, it makes it feel like one piece. And to me, that's what makes this skate so good. And you know, it's worked pretty well for me for about 10 years. What's also interesting is, since these instep straps are effectively only attached to the material, again, they're not attached to the carbon fiber. I can pull this all off and nothing's riveted, nothing's screwed to the carbon fiber. You can screw, or you can drill these off much in the same way that I did with the UFS receptors, and then drill a new hole into the carbon fiber, which is what I will either skate them without the straps entirely, if I can get a good hockey lace feel, or I will remove them and then drill through the carbon fiber to add separate straps entirely, because again, you can see that this suede, it's not glued down. And if I'm trying to get a really good strapped instep, you know, a good power transfer from that, I want to make sure it's not going anywhere. So I typically remove these metal plates, get in there and cut out the strap receptor the same way I did the tongue. You're just cutting the stitching, and attach a new receptor. Honestly, the USD Aeon ones work really well because it has that metal receptor and then the strap. Yeah, that's been working pretty well for me. Let's see. Yeah, that right there. That metal strap there. And then you can just strap the strap straight to there. These are screwed through the carbon fiber right to the boot, so it's a nice solid feel. So that's the route I would go with it. Okay. I decided to update that last cuff template. You can maybe see that pencil line there. So this is a new template. I added a little bit more material down here at the bottom, because when I put this on, I'm going to drill the hole just all the way through, and that just gives me a little extra screw-up room. Once I have it on, fitted, see how it feels, I can pull it out then, and if it looks like I have too much material, just trim it right off. So get rid of that for now. Grab our cutting board. Open this out. And then you want to think of the best way to use this, you know, to get as many cuffs out of here as possible. And it looks like I could probably get 4 cuffs, 2 pairs. So I'll start at the top here with just some kind of pen. You can test it on the corner, make sure it looks good before you really start tracing. I'm kind of digging in a little bit deeper because, you know, cutting boards are meant to be easy to clean and whatnot, so getting a pen to stick to it well can be a little bit difficult. I'm just kind of digging in, following the lines real tight. And I'm just going to copy these flex cuts because I've been skating those for probably 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and I know that it feels good. It just gives me the perfect kind of movement in my ankle. So, mostly copying what I've already made. And again, I can make these templates available to anyone who wants them, but keep in mind I'm a size 8. If you're a different size, you may need to make some adjustments. You might be able to see the line. It is kind of faint. So, you could use scissors. I just love using razor blades anytime I can. They work well for me, so. And then, you know, do this on a surface you don't care about. And just start digging in. So it's not cutting all the way through in the beginning. I would guess that it's cutting about halfway through. And then once you get your whole pattern cut about halfway through, then what you'll do is start bending the board to open up that crease, and then you'll be able to work your blade right in there and pull it apart. Okay, there we go. There's our cuff. I didn't cut out my flex points yet because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill holes here basically. So if this cuff starts getting strained after a while, that hole will basically be like a fresh spot where it won't rip or continue to be strained basically. I don't want to scrape the table too much, so I'll just use a scrap piece of wood here. Cool. Now I can finish cutting that out. Cutting out my flex cuts from here. Okay, there we are. That is the finalized cuff. Now one side is grippy and one side is the side you would cut on. It's meant for, you know, when you set it on a countertop or whatever, it doesn't slide. I like to put the grippy side toward the liner, just another thing to prevent the liner from moving around. And it's a little extra softer material for the receptors to kind of sink into for the straps. I keep it right below the white padding if you're doing this for Deshis. Seems like the original max height of the cuff. Yeah, so something like that. Alright, let's drill some holes and screw everything together. Use a 1/4 inch drill bit to make my holes, equivalent to 6 millimeters or so. It gives you a little extra space for, I use Razor's T-nuts for the cuff because the barrel is long enough that it goes through the carbon fiber and through the cuff, so it's not just tension that's holding it on. If you think of the way a cuff bolt receptor goes through the cuff and the cuff sits on there, it's not just the screw, depending on the skate. I'm sure some are different. And then I've got these extra receptors and screws from some Aeon strap kits, which are pretty much the same as Carbon 2-3 strap kits, which are the same things that I think they use for straps and buckles. So those work really, really well. double check your cuff position. Because the cuff hasn't broken in, you can see that, you might be able to see that the skin has this curvature while the cuff is sitting flat, so just kind of squeeze it in until it looks like it's going to be good. I'm going to go right behind this rivet because that looks like where there's the most amount of carbon fiber and plastic overlaying one another. So that's where I'll start. Just kind of hold everything tight. It would actually be better to go straight down like this. Make sure you give yourself enough room for a washer, so I'm going to go about 3/8 inches away from the rivet. Put my T-nut inside here. Fits through quite well. Washer. Okay, I'm actually going to use some semi-long razors, sole plate screws. The other screws I have weren't long enough for some reason, so. This will do for now until I can get something else. Because I like the flat head on top and the cone shape underneath the head, because then it kind of sits a little bit flatter into the washer. But this will at least get us started for a bit. Now that we've got that side secure, it makes it a little easier to make sure that this is going to be where we want it. Don't breathe this stuff in. It's fiberglass and carbon fiber. Okay, there we go. Cuffs are installed. Looks a little bit of Frankenstein's monster-y right now, but you can come up with some better screws later. It'll get the job done to keep going. So I'm going to do the same thing for the strap and strap receptor. We're just going to go straight through those holes that I pulled those rivets out of before. Do not drill into your fingers. Don't do that. Deburr the plastic if it seems to have some junk left over on you. Go. Oh yeah, and there's some fiberglass in there from having drilled through the shell itself. Okay. This side's a little trickier because this buckle protector keeps the top of the boot kind of curved like. So you kind of have to push the cuff in to get that shape. That side, you know, just what I had before. It's just, so this is an old Deshi ankle strap that I just poked a hole through. You can actually take a lighter to a hot nail and it'll melt the synthetic fibers and it kind of cauterizes it. And there's another AON / carbon 2-3 strap receptor. I'm going to use this USD hardware here. Got some padding in the way of the hole, so that's what I was saying. If you didn't cut it up high enough, you could always come back and trim it later. So I just have a little bit of trimming to do there. So now I've got more razors, sole plate screws. These should work pretty well. Tool. Okay, that's what we needed to do. So I've used a razor screw to effectively pull that receptor, that screw receptor into the cuff, which now, when it's pulled in, I pull this out and put in a regular screw to shorten up that distance. Try to keep everything pinched together. Yeah, there we go, that worked beautifully. Cool. I know that this buckle protector out here makes that side of the skate thicker, so that will have to use one of the razor screws. Okay. Now, you probably noticed that the cutting board felt pretty soft. Now that it's screwed to the carbon fiber and to the skin through the straps, it's still soft, but we don't have a lot of up and down movement. This outside especially is where more of the support comes from, and feels pretty good. Like I said before, I would recommend not doing the flex cuts at first. Try it without them. If it feels too stiff, then you can take them out and add flex cuts. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically re-secure the strap receptors to the boot. So rather than cutting everything out and using those AN receptors, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to just get rid of this rivet, and which luckily this metal plate does overlap the carbon fiber. So I'm just going to pull out the rivet and I'm going to put a screw in so that this metal plate and strap and all of that is just screwed directly to the carbon fiber. I've had luck with these flat cutter things recently with pulling out rivets, so let's see how this goes. There it goes. So you see that plate came off, but I'm just going to put that right back on. Let me get this rivet out from the inside. Cool. You can see where the hole is from that rivet. And I got the washer and and the rivet from the inside. Make sure you clear that out. 1/4 inch drill bit again, right through the carbon fiber. I'm going to use these strap receptors again. They have 3 little spikes on them, but since we're going flat on carbon fiber, we're going to want to grab those and just, they bend right off. They don't do much of anything. Alright, yeah, that looks like about an 8mm screw, so you don't need a washer on this one because this metal plate is effectively your washer. Screw this all together. Cool. And we'll do the same thing for the inside thing. Right. Thing. Okay. That side's nice and secure. Alright. We've come to the point where we can put everything back together. I'm just going to put the laces in, the instep strap, heel pad, liner, because all of that stuff can be heat molded. When you heat mold, it's only 180 degrees. That's not enough to melt plastic. So, everything goes in. Heel pad, got the lace, instep strap, liner. We'll set that aside for now. It's starting to look like something. Let's try it on. Okay. Feels pretty good to me. A little tight on the top of the toe. The heel is maybe the wrong shape, but that's why we heat mold them. Every time you change skates with Intuitions, you want to heat mold the liners because you can. I mean, that's what they're for. Okay, I heat molded the skate. It's 95% there. Feels good in the heel, the side of my feet, the ankle, above the ankle, and the cuff. Literally, just right there. It's too tight on the top of my toe. That's because this Intuition liner has got to be 4 times thicker than the stock liner. So, Ben, this one's for you. We're going to heat up just the toe cap here. Pop it loose. Just make a little bit of room. If you're using a, I don't know what strength or whatever this is, but 1200 watt. If you're using one of these, use low heat. If you're using a hairdryer, use high heat. So we'll just heat up the toe. Look at that. Heated it and peeled it. Heated it and peeled it. That's it. And then let's see. I'm just going to get in here with an Allen key and make sure it's not still stuck to the carbon fiber anywhere. Might be hard to see, but see that that's popping up. Yep, I think that should just do it. Okay, so heel pad in. Never forget to put your heel pad in if you're doing fitment tests, heat molding, all of that, because it can make a big difference as to where your foot is front to back and where your ankle sits in the shell. So don't ever forget that. If you're going to use an insole, don't forget your insole. Okay. Now that I've got it there, now you can kind of tug on the fabric and see what it's going to do. Peel this a little bit more on the side. A little bit more movement. Just on my big toe side, because that's the only spot I'm having an issue. Yep, that's going to do it. So what I'm going to do after this, I'll do it off camera, is I'm just going to take a hot glue gun. You just need a little bead just on the edge. You don't have to get all the way up in there. Just do it at the edge to hold this down. And then for where you can see my fabric is frayed here, super glue that first. Definitely use super glue there. Usually if you super glue it once, it doesn't come undone again because it kind of hardens the leather, makes it really durable. So super glue any ripped stitches, hot glue there. Usually what I'll do is I'll put the boot on, do like this, that way you know. You can just get your hot glue gun in there. You probably really only have to hold it down for 15 seconds or so. You do want to move quickly with hot glue. It cools down pretty quickly. So, yeah. We'll get that toe fitting. I'll do that stuff real quick off camera. And then we'll put the skate back together. Alright, toe is fixed. Super glued there. Oh, I got some beads of hot glue. And then you might be able to see that glue residue line. So I moved this section out and up about 1/4 of an inch, and I put it on real quick, and it feels pretty good. I think that's going to work. And the nice thing about hot glue, it's easy to remelt. The way I did it initially to peel it up with heat gun, you can just heat it up again. Same amount of time, a couple of minutes, low heat, and then you can just shift it around. If it's too loose, it's a little tight. If it's too tight, just push it up. So yeah, it's my favorite time. Time lapse. Time-lapse pause for a second. I forgot to talk about the Adapt 6 mount. So all I had to do was basically trace the holes from the sole plate, drill 1/4 inch holes for the outside. Now these are the old version that took regular like sole plate screws. The newer version take like full frame bolts, so keep that in mind if you're doing this on your own. So I had to use washers because these are the newest sole plates with the older version of the 6 mount receptor. So there you go, sole plate screwed to the boot, 4 screws, nice and sturdy. Back to time lapse. There it is. Gutted Deshi Carbon, Intuition liner, Adapt soles, with a 6 mount. This is going to be my favorite skate yet, I can already tell. Everything came together really well on this one. Keep in mind, this will work for the USD Carbon one, USD Carbon 2, 3, Seba skates, as much as I can tell since I've never played with those. Same thing will work for Adapt skates, except you don't need to do anything with the cuff because that's built into the shell. So yeah, this has been How to Mod, Episode 2, Gutting Carbons. Good luck with your project.